This is Tom. I just wanted to make a quick little video on this recent project I did on my KeyWest 1720 boat. It's a 94 1724 and it has the aluminum tank, and it was bad. It was actually bad when I bought the boat. So I kind of did this with just grab some of my screenshots or actually pictures, and I kind of just put them in a quick PowerPoint presentation. It's easier for me to do that. So what I did was originally I cut out, I was online, I researched a whole bunch of stuff, and I cut a hole in the boat underneath where the console sits. So you could see this is where the console is. I removed it, it's sitting up here somewhere high, and I had access to the tank. And I believe the original tank was a 31-gallon tank, and it was foamed in. It had foam on the sides here, it had foam underneath it. So it was a bear to take out. This tank here is actually a little bit smaller than the tank I took out. Sorry, I don't have any pictures on that. And I had to cut it out. I ended up putting a cut right across here and making a section of it. The tank itself has tabs. It has a tab up here, and it has a tab on the bottom. Probably show you a little bit better here. So this is the drawing I found online for the tank that was in my boat. It had a tab here, and it had a tab here. The reason I mentioned that, like I said before, this was a bear to take out. So it had the screws in here that you can't get access. If you look at this view here, the tank goes underneath here, and this one's actually short. It went all the way up to this bulkhead here, and it had two screws in there. The same thing is true here. Kind of, you see my foot here. This is kind of where the seat goes back here, and there's screws here on the tab. If you follow what I'm saying. On this particular one, the pickup's there, and there's a tab here, and there's two screws on there, so which hold the tank in place. Sorry about that. So to rip this thing out, it wasn't coming. I ended up using an electric winch, hooking it up just to break the seal. With the foam, I did end up putting a hole in my boat here, a 6-inch I think hole, maybe 8-inch round plastic port type thing, so it gave me access. And actually, I should show a picture of it, but I actually did too far back. So half of it, there's a bulkhead, there's like a section here, bulkhead here, that separates the tank, and where there used to be foam, on my particular boat, used to be foam there. It's actually, I think, the support on it. So anyway, there's tabs there with two screws in it. So I ended up ripping it out, breaking the seal with a winch to break it loose. I couldn't get it all the way out like you see in this picture. To get it out, I had to cut it. Then I was able to angle it out and pull it out. The new tank that I had built for me, I asked them to make it a little bit smaller. I believe this was a 31-gallon original tank, maybe 30. I had them go 2 inches shorter on each area, so the total length is 4 inches less and an inch shorter on each side, so it's narrower by 2 inches. That made it a 23-gallon tank by doing that. And I'll be honest with you, it just fit. I actually had to bend the tabs here to get this thing to clear so I could drop it in. All right, other than that, the rest of the dimensions are the same. This drawing showed the pickup here, which now is under the fiberglass, and you can't get easy access to it. My original tank wasn't really done per this drawing. I had a pickup right here, and the gas line went through the rigging tube. Okay, so then the new pickup is lower, which I guess is good in respect that maybe with the boat at an angle, I could use more of the fuel, because I'm thinking naturally it's going to flow back versus being in the middle or kind of in the middle of the tank. The negative is it's underneath the floor. You can't get easily access to it. Since I drilled a hole basically somewhere here, an access port on my boat, I can kind of reach underneath and get access to it, but it's still a pain to get to it. So right now my boat, the pickup's here, the tube comes around here, the fuel line then goes into the rigging tube. That's how the original was done on my boat. Here's the rigging tube over here. I had to move this forcefully out of the way to get this thing able to drop because the rigging tube was in the way. You kind of could see some straps here. I ended up strapping that around the rigging tube, and I just kind of pushed it out of the way so I could drop the tank in. Otherwise, I was stopping it. The rigging tube was actually sitting on top of the tank here, and you couldn't get this angle to drop it in. As I mentioned, I found this drawing online. I had it built. Actually, right next to my work, there's Patriot Marine Fabricated, the next building over for my unit, and they ended up building me this tank. So with the dimensions I told you, that ended up being a 23-gallon tank. Patriot was recommended. I asked him about epoxy coating it. He didn't recommend it, saying that if you scratch it, moisture is going to get it onto the tank and it will create a rust point. He basically just recommended being bare aluminum. I did end up spraying the Yamaha silicone lube all over the tank before I dropped it in, thinking Yamaha saying to do it with their engines, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Here, don't know if that works or not, if it helps me or not, but that's what I ended up doing. By the way, I'm not a professional. This is just a hobby. I'm playing with my own boat, so please take anything I did with a grain of caution. But this is what I did. So then the next thing I did, once I got it all in place, I ended up building this little shelf. I used 5200 on the outside. These screws here are really the original holes that center console uses to bolt down. So I 5200. I used the original screws to hold it in place while it was curing. Here's where my rigging tube is. You could actually see that fuel line I was telling you about, how it was working its way up and around and back in. My filler, my vent. Okay, I did not refoam the tank in. I wanted as much air around it as possible, so that's how I did it. The material I use here I had is a PVC material. I kind of liked it because it wasn't going to rot. I'm not sure about it. It's, I don't know, about 1 inch thick, maybe 7/8 inch thick. I don't know how strong it is. It seems to be strong. I did put additional screws in between here to hold it, and then when I put the console on, these screws here are long enough to go through the original flooring and the new PVC shelf I built. Then I just dropped the original floor back on it, and I used silicone, and I siliconed in it. All right, so once all that dried, this thing's pretty solid. I went on there, all 200 pounds of me, and it seems solid. On my particular boat, I did move the batteries underneath the console, so they sit right here. So I got 2 batteries on there, so I got a backup. I'm hoping this doesn't cause me an issue down the road. On the original console, if you think about it, there's your seat here with that's a built-in cooler. There's another wall here. Then you have your doors here that open up to this area here. I ended up siliconing this as well. All right, thinking that it's going to grab onto the original flooring, so it helps secure it even tighter. I used the silicone. Sorry about that. I use the silicone in case I ever have to go back in there. I figured it'd be better than 5200. I could probably get myself in there again. All right, this is the original tank. So on the original tank, this is my garage. You can see there were some holes. I had to take all the foam off. This is actually on the side. You can almost see here, this is angled up. This is looking inside the tank. Since I cut it, a section of it out, I was able to get inside. You can see a little bit better. This is where it rotted away originally. It didn't rot on the bottom, it rotted on the side, and there was all foam here. My foam on my boat was wet. It's wet in there. That's why I didn't want to put new foam on it. So that's what I did. Hopefully this helps some guys out. Thanks for watching.